Let's compare the intermittent and the repetitive operations. We do this by such a table where in the first column we have the criteria that we want to use to compare both operations. The first criterion is the product variety. For intermittent operations we have a big variety, many different products with different features, different characteristics. And for the repetitive operations, we have a rather small variety of products. The degree of standardization. We have little standardization. So in the extreme case, every product is different. Every product gets produced only one time. And the features may be very different. In contrast, for the repetitive operations, we have a high degree of standardization. The product, the output is very similar. How do we organize the equipment, the manufacturing resources? For intermittent operations, we usually have them grouped according to different functions, and we move our product manually between the different groups. For the repetitive operations, we usually have a line flow organized. The product is flowing through the factory floor and is passing by all the required machines. And that also means that the product passes every machine, every product passes the same machine, while for the intermittent operations, only a selected subset of machines is used. The path of the products through the facility, therefore, is in a varied pattern. So every product might visit the machines in different sequences. And for the line flow, it's always the same, namely in the same line. Think of the hospital. This is an example for intermittent operations, and every patient visits the different stations in the hospital in a different pattern. While for the line flow in the beverage example, the Coca-Cola bottles, the bottle visited all the machine always in the same sequence. What is the factor that is driving the production in the intermittent operations? It is the customer orders. We manufacture in the way that we can fulfill the customer order, and the customer orders might arrive at different times in our factory and with different specifications. On the other hand, for the repetitive organizations, we usually manufacture based on a forecast what is needed in the next weeks or months. What are the critical resources? Well, in the intermittent operations, we have a lot of labor-intensive operations. Usually we have highly skilled workers to perform individual, maybe creative tasks on the product. And for the repetitive operations, usually we require a lot of capital to fund the machines for automation. We have a lot of technology, and the labor is less important for the actual manufacturing process. What is the type of equipment for the intermittent operations? We have general purpose equipment that could be used in many different contexts. For the repetitive organization, our equipment is specialized, so maybe we can only use it for this specific production process. What is the possible degree of automation? Intermittent operations, there's not so much potential for automation. For the repetitive operations, it can usually be highly automated. The throughput time, so the time from the start of the manufacturing process until the end of the manufacturing process, is typically longer for the intermittent operations and shorter for the repetitive operations. Work in process inventory, so how much inventory is required to support the manufacturing process. For the intermittent operations, usually we have higher work in process inventory, and for the repetitive operations, a lower work in process inventory. Now we discussed two extremes of the operation processes, intermittent and repetitive operations. Of course, there are many finely specified possible production operations between these extreme points. Let's go into a little bit more of detail by the means of this chart. Look at the axis first. We have the product volume, the output volume on the x-axis, and the more we go to the right, the higher the output volume of the production process. And on the y-axis, we have the degree of standardization. The more we go to the bottom, to the origin of this diagram, the higher the degree of standardization, and the more to the top, the lower the degree of standardization. Now we can classify 4 different production processes: project processes, batch processes, line processes, and continuous processes. The batch processes, the project processes, usually they have extremely low degree of standardization. We have a project because we only do it once, and therefore the degree of standardization is very low, and the output volume is also very low. An example of a project is, for example, introducing a new software system to manage the resources of a company. Second, batch processes. In batch processes, we have a slightly higher degree of standardization and a slightly higher product output volume. And one example that they give here is education classes. For example, geotech, a class can be considered as a batch production process. So you as a student are the product that is produced. We put knowledge and skills inside you so that you can help Oman and the world to become a better place. And why is it called batch processes? Well, when you visit a class, then you are grouped together, 150 students in one class, and the professor is teaching and educating you. So we don't do it individual one-on-one teaching per student, but we group you together in bigger groups and apply our equipment, our knowledge, our skills onto you. But you move through different programs, different courses, not all at the same time. Different students study different programs. There are different production steps. Maybe some need to repeat a course, so they have a different schedule like their fellow students, so therefore it is more customized. Line processes are typically assembly lines, or for example the canteen if it's well organized. The variety of products is much lower. Everyone in the canteen gets the same food, or the selection of different food types is limited, but therefore we can offer a quicker service compared to an individual restaurant where you order food. And finally, we have continuous processes with a high output volume and a high degree of standardization, and many oil and gas products are produced in a continuous process. So for example, the oil refinery is an example for a continuous production process. process. Keep in mind that a company can use a mix of different production processes. It is not required that the company has only one production process, but we can have a mix here as an example. The bakery will always have some standard products that they offer every day or every weekend, but maybe they also have some more customized products when you pre-order a certain quantity or a certain type of product.